Om Shanti. So this evening, happiness. Now some people think that happiness is an original quality of the soul. How many people think that? Fortunately, very few. Because it's not. No, it's a product of pure karma. So we have happiness, and then on the other hand we have sorrow. So, how do I know this? I will tell you a little story which happened many years ago. There was an extremely tragic event in the form of a nasty car crash which took place between here and Ahmedabad maybe more than 15 years ago. And in that, 2 people died and 1 person survived, but with quite a lot of injuries. And it happened that I had to go, as soon as this took place, to go and be with the people in the hospital. And it took about 10, 12 days to complete everything. And it was a very, very tragic drama, which created a lot of upset in all directions. Anyway, at the end of that whole process, it was the day that Baba was coming. And so myself and the 2 other Brahmins who were with me wanted to meet Baba, of course. And everything was completed, funeral ceremony and everything. And then there was just enough time for us to reach Abu and take a very fast shower before Baba started to speak. Normally he will speak about 7 p.m. And so we left for Abu. And all of a sudden in the car I started feeling unbelievably happy. And I said, oh my God, this is really bad. Because I should be very serious and, but my smile was going from ear to ear uncontrollably. And so I was sitting in the back of the car by the window, so I had to look out of the window so no one would see how happy I was, because it's absolutely politically incorrect to be very happy immediately following a major tragedy. And I was very puzzled that, how come I'm so happy? And this happiness persisted for a long time, and it was extreme, the kind of happiness that you would love to have. Except I thought it was really inappropriate to feel that way in the midst of all that, tragedy and pain that so many people were experiencing around it. So anyway, we reached to Abu, and Baba was coming in Om Shanti Bhavan at that time. And so we just came in as Baba said, Aj, And then we sat down. And because it was quite a big drama, after the main Murli, we were called up on stage. And then Baba looked at me and he said, do you know why you were so happy? I said, how do you know you're spying on me? But I said, no, And Baba said, because you did service. So I thought, well, that is a very deep point. And from then on, I really became quite sure that happiness is not an original quality of the soul. Bliss is. I always think of it as purity, peace, power, love, and bliss, the 5 quintessential qualities of the soul. But happiness is a product of service. And you can say not just service, but any kind of good action. If you do a good action, I'm sure that most of us experience, especially when we give the knowledge to someone and it goes over well, we generally experience happiness as a result of conducting such a class. Have you experienced that? Yes? So there's something in it. And then, of course, we experience happiness, but then we also sometimes experience what Baba calls mood off. Right? The feeling of self-doubt, the feeling of maybe sorrow, maybe dark feelings, maybe the inspiration to have plenty of waste thoughts about oneself and one's part in drama and things like that. And so there is this play going on between happiness and sorrow. And we also experience, I think, connected with happiness and sorrow, that if our karma is correct, according to Baba, then we have good yoga. And if our karma is not correct, we have done any things that he doesn't like, then we experience that our yoga is cut and we cannot make contact. Do you experience this? Yes? No? Yes. So happiness and sorrow, I feel very clear, is very much to do with our actions. And I suppose it's that system of reward and punishment that's operating in terms of our relationship with Baba. Because once we're in the confluence age, then everything we do, consciously or unconsciously, is somehow connected with our conducting of our affairs according to Shrimat or deviating from Shrimat. And we get an immediate response from Baba in terms of how he enables us to feel on the inside of ourselves. And then on other occasions he just tests us. So you will be doing very fine and then he will test you by making you feel bad or withdrawing himself. Have you experienced that? Yes? Few of you, not many. Well, there's all sorts of things that he does in order to enable us to be very, very firm and clear about who we are and what we're doing. Now, in the immediate past Murli that we had on 20th, Baba talked to us about the happiness of applying the 3 subjects of Gyan Yoga Dharana and of using our time of the confluence age well. And so this is also, I think, connected with karma. If we are, Baba uses this word Tivra Purusharat, which generally we hear it as intense effort, right? But this word Tivra also has another meaning, which is rapid or fast. So we have to understand what is the element of speed in our karma. So different things happen to us constantly as the day goes by, and things will occur to us in our mind and in the social environment where people are interacting with us, we're talking with people, and then the things that we do. So the thoughts, words, and actions are going on. And every time something happens, we respond to it. And we can respond to it with knowledge or without knowledge. And we have a nanosecond in which to respond. So if we are making, the way I look at it, fast effort, it is really the speed with which we interpret what we are perceiving to understand what is going on around us, mentally, verbally, physically, and then to be able to apply Gyan, the power of yoga, and the virtues of dharana, so that we can actually plant a seed of a powerful action which then produces the experience of happiness. And the experience of happiness, I think, it's not really that we desire to feel happiness. I don't really think of happiness as a warm, fuzzy feeling, although a lot of people think that way. But I think of happiness as a lot more subtle than that. That when we are rapid enough to interpret accurately what's going on, to select what approach, what attitude, what position, what power, what action to perform as a response to what's coming our way, if we get it right, then we will say, this is success. And when you have an experience of being successful in your karma, then I think that there is something that takes place inside, which perhaps you might want to call a sense of things being right, or a sense of having done the right thing at the right time. And this gives you a feeling of accomplishment. And one of the things Baba had told us just in the last Avyak Murli is about our attainments. And I think that we have attained many, many things in terms of Gyan, Yoga, Dharana, service opportunities. Many, many good things have been achieved by us, but I think the attainment of doing the right thing at the right time in the right place, which gives us this feeling of achievement, I think this, perhaps more than anything, carries us forward in the Confluence Age. Confluence Age and the Iron Age are superimposed one upon the other. And the Iron Age involves, there's a sort of what I call as a drag, which is dragging the soul down into the quagmire of body consciousness, of negative emotions, of the inspiration to sabotage one's progress, and various things like this. And then in terms of the confluence age of rising, in which we can have an interpretation of everything that's going on such that we conduct ourselves to move forward. Even if what's going on could easily take us a few steps backward, but if we use the Gyan, Yoga, Dharana time of the Confluence Age invest our seeds of doing the exact right thing, then we have transformed something negative into something positive. And I think that this is really what our practice of Raj Yoga is all about. You know, in today's Sakar Murli, Baba spoke about Doctory Yoga and Raj Yoga. In other words, yoga is not just to sit in meditation and be in silence, but yoga is very much the study. Studying the study, understanding why we are studying the study, knowing what the aim of the study is, and having our focused attention on all of those things. That is really yoga. And so when we say, I think my stage of yoga needs improvement, and then we think, well, what we should do is sit down and meditate for X number of hours. Do you do this? Yeah? Have a good long bhatti. If it is not done together with deep thought about what the study is and what the study is saying, it will not work. But rather you will sit in meditation doing nothing in particular, so that you'll be not doing anything particularly bad except in your mind. But for our yoga to move forward well, our mind has to be very much aware of what the aim is. When Baba talks to us about attainment, it means that whatever our stages, whatever our circumstances, whatever our situation is, we have an opportunity to use it in a multitude of different ways. And to interpret what is going on superficially is in a way to be blind. So if we see what is there and not more than that, then we are probably in the Iron Age. But to be able to see behind it, to see through it, to see the opportunity that it is giving, and also to see that Maya is wanting to show us something for us to see it in Maya's way. But it's optional whether or not we see that. So if we interpret what is presented to us at face value, then we haven't used our power of discrimination. So there was one Murli Baba had given long time ago, only about the power of discrimination. And that means that we have to have, he said, if you have a very good power of discrimination, that you can discriminate exactly what's going on, what Maya is doing, what drama is doing, what God is doing, what you are doing, then you can be very successful as a Raj Yogi, even if you don't have any of the other powers. This one power of discrimination will put you in such a good position that you will be able to be fully successful. And so hearing a Murli like that, of course, we want to think very deeply about what is this process of discrimination. And you know that the the icon for the power of discrimination is two diamonds. One is real and one is fake. And one time, sometimes I do pranks, you know. So one time there was a diamond dealer from South Africa who came to the center where I was many years ago. And in those days in the United States, you used to get things through the post, little samples of something. So we got a zirconia through the post. It was a nice big, maybe 10-carat diamond-looking like thing, but it wasn't a diamond. But I showed this to him. I said, look, I have this diamond. He said, yeah, it's a good diamond. I said, what do you think it's worth? Oh, it's a lot of money. And he looked at it, and then I said, well, you know what? It's not a diamond. But I thought that as a diamond dealer, he should be able to discriminate, but he couldn't. It was such a good fake. And I think that this is what happens to us in drama. On many occasions, circumstances will present themselves to us in a very complete way to make us think that something is what it isn't. And if we don't discriminate what it is, then we will interpret it incorrectly, we will choose to do the wrong action, we will take the wrong attitude, the wrong approach, and the result will be a big mistake, and we will experience sorrow. And that sorrow is simply because of lack of the power of discrimination. So Baba says that these powers come through yoga. So now, how do you get powers through yoga? It doesn't happen that you just sit there meditating and power will come waltzing down from the soul world and fill itself into you and you are fully empowered with all the 8 powers. It doesn't work like that. You do receive light from Baba. Sometimes Baba talks about the current. So when you're really focused on Baba in yoga and you're focused in soul consciousness and you connect with Baba, you do get that current of power and light, and it does fill you. But I also find that connected with those days where you have that really, really good yoga, you also have really good tests. Have you experienced that? Yes? So there's a connection between those two. It's as if you need to have the illusion of being absolutely okay, to put your guard down, and then when a test comes, it comes hard and strong. And then you get confused that, oh, I had such a good yoga earlier on, now what happened? How did I get into this situation where I fail so miserably and all my happiness of that nice yoga has gone away? And then we have to sit and think about that and see that the test came to test us in the sense that we have to be able to interpret what it is, position ourselves in such a way that we neutralize that test. We have to figure it out, apply whatever neutralizing agent is required, and neutralize it. So Baba gives us the power, but if we don't realize that connected with having that power also is, it's like a warning that here comes a test. It means we haven't completely understood what the practice of Raj Yoga is really all about. So then again and again over the years we go back to the drawing board until finally the penny drops and we understand that all of these experiences are there simply to make us knowledgeable, so that we really analyze ourselves, analyze the situation, to be able to see clearly, okay, in this situation, I should have positioned myself like this, I should have had this attitude, etc. And then I would pass the test and I would be able to actually use the power that Baba had given. And when you pass a test, you become happy. When you fail a test, your happiness goes away, but you learn a lot. And if you can sit down with yourself and really understand what the lesson is, so that you don't have to take that same test many, many times. Every time we get a test, it's something that will hit us in an area where we need to empower ourselves. It's an area where we're a little rusty, a little lacking in wisdom, a little lacking in expertise. And so the test will come purely and simply to get us to look at ourselves in that particular area so that we reinforce ourselves in terms of our understanding, our capacity to handle that kind of test and to handle it well. So failure is not really a bad thing at all, because we learn. And when we learn something the hard way, I don't think many people learn the easy way, right? But when we learn something the hard way, we don't forget. And in order to make sure, and to also give us the experience of success, that test will come in a number of different modes, but it's still the same test until we really pass it. And not just once, but maybe 10 times, just to make sure that, okay, in that area I am fully okay. And then it will go to another and another area. So I think that our happiness is very much reinforced when we intensively and speedily apply the knowledge, the yoga, the dharana, and we really have the depth of the knowledge of drama. When Baba talks about time, I think of it also as the knowledge of drama. And the knowledge of drama is really very, very subtle. It's not that, okay, drama means everything is repeating identically every 5,000 years, so how am I supposed to work with that? Because the knowledge of drama is an instrument. And it's an instrument which is particularly useful for stabilizing the self. As the knowledge of drama is a knowledge of cyclic rotation. And anything that is rotating will remain in the same plane. And the problem for us is happiness and sorrow makes us up and down. You see, that is, happiness and sorrow means up and down. So if you are in an airplane, everybody got here by an airplane, and if your airplane is landing and it's going like this, you don't feel so comfortable, right? If it's coming straight and it hits the ground properly and smoothly, you feel okay. But when it's going like this, or if you're in turbulence, then you feel very uncomfortable. So happiness and sorrow is a kind of natural turbulence that goes on in the confluence age. And so Baba gives us the knowledge of drama to enable us to create this spinning effect that causes us to be really stable regardless of anything external that may want us to go up and down. And so I think all of us have been enjoying using the spinning of the 5 forms, the dot, the deity, the worship-worthy form, the Brahman form, the angel form, and then again the dot. And there are many different ways of interpreting these 5 forms, but one way is to understand that each and every one of those forms is a form of our perfection. And when a soul is very sensitive, I think everybody here is very sensitive, is that right? Are you very sensitive? I think if you're not sensitive, it's not possible to experience contact with God through the mind. So anyone who's insensitive, they won't be able to do that. So we have to be sensitive. But if we're sensitive to God, then we're also sensitive to disturbances and anything that can alter our mood and switch us rapidly from feeling very good to feeling very bad. And all these feelings, they occur in the mind. And the 5 forms of perfection satisfy the mind. Because I suppose being BKs, is there anybody here who's not a perfectionist? Anyone? No hands are going up. So I will assume that we're all perfectionists, which is a very, very uncomfortable thing to be. Because a perfectionist, you expect perfection from everybody around you, which you don't get. And then you also expect perfection from yourself, which you also don't get. And so, of course, we gradually realize that perfection is balance, and perfectionism is, this state of shifting between the extremes, which is very unstable. So we go from this state of perfectionism through using the different methods Baba gives us to become stable, until we reach this state of balance where we are really neutral through the use of knowledge, through the use of the accumulation of powers, and through the use of the accumulation of our different virtues. We can be neutral in the face of all the occurrences that cause us to feel something. You can shut down your heart so that you don't feel anything, but that is not really going to help, because you just become a frozen yogi, and that's no use. So we have to retain our sensitivity, but we must mitigate it with this balancing circular motion of the cycling of the 5 forms, in order to keep ourselves in that state where we are extremely sensitive but unmoved by the ups and downs. That means this circling, just like a bicycle. When you ride a bicycle, you're not going to fall down because the wheel's turning. When it stops, you will go over one side or the other. And this is the nature of a wheel. It will keep you in the same plane. So this cycling is very important. And when you accept yourself in the old cycle, I'm a deity, I'm a warrior, I'm a merchant, I'm a Shudra, and then I'm a Brahman. It's very hard for a sensitive soul to say, I, the soul, am a Shudra for 42 births. I think most people would say, I will not make that assertion. That is too horrible. Won't do it. But if we make the other one, the other assertion, that I'm the point in my completely perfect form, the seed, I manifest in my perfect form as a deity. The worship-worthy form is the imprint of the state of being karmatit that sits in the subtle region and which is invoked by devotees. So that is your worship-worthy form. Not an idol itself, but the spirit that is invoked. And as a Brahman, not our Purusharati stage, our effort maker stage, but once we become a karmatit Brahman, that's the kind of Brahman that goes in that circling. And then the angel form the body of light. So to assert yourself in all of these forms in the same time as going through the cycle of 84 births, all the way from Sato Pradhan to Tamo Pradhan, when you do these 5 forms, you do not have to say, I am empty, negative, viceful, sinner, and whatnot, which belongs to the path of devotion more than the path of knowledge. But the knowledgeful soul asserts the fact that throughout time I have access to such a state of perfection that I can feel good about myself regardless of what's going on around me. And this is a very good key point for being able to remain happy. It allows us to be independent of the feedback that we're getting from other people. Otherwise, when we are not given the respect that we want, or we are excluded from something we want to be included in, or we're having a bad day, or something goes wrong, or whatever, it will destabilize us. And then we will realize that we are a failure. And then we go back to square one all the time. And it creates a state of despondency and unhappiness with the thought that I really don't think I'm going to make it, and so probably I'd better stop being a BK. And then Maya says, yes, go for that. So we need to use these instruments that Baba has given to us because all of these moments of despondency are really optional, and we go for them when we lose contact with the practice of, or the intensification, or the rapid practice of Gyan, Yoga, Dharana, and the awareness of time. So now Baba has said time is very delicate, and there's extreme amount of negative energy being released by that very huge section of humanity that is experiencing personal sorrow. And people have sorrow through their illnesses, through their mental disturbances, through their relationship disasters and catastrophes, through their financial insufficiency, through their loss of hope, and so on. So 7 billion souls having negative thoughts, you can imagine what kind of atmosphere that's creating. And we are in the middle of that. And so naturally, you can understand that there's 1 million BKs who are not 24 hours a day having pure thoughts. But there must be at least a pure thought going on 24 hours a day. At least, according to Daddy Janki, 24 hours a day somewhere there's Amrit Vela going on. And so there are powerful thoughts going on, but the comparison of quantity of negative feelings and pure Brahman thoughts, you can see the ratio is, 1 million to 7 billion, if we are all on top of things. But it might be maybe 100,000 to 7 billion. Perhaps 10% of us are in a good stage all the time. Maybe less than that. So you kind of see what you're up against. And yet, when we connect with Baba, when we do the things that he offers us to do in our minds, it does actually work. But we have to be rapid. And this is why I like his word Tivra Purusharat as interpreted as rapid effort making rather than intense effort making, because intense always seems like this, it's really hard, whereas rapid is instant. The speed of thought is instant. When you are listening to something or seeing something, the speed at which that sense impression reaches your organ of sense and is processed in your brain, I've heard it's about 0.3 of a second, which is not very fast in comparison with the instant speed of a thought. And so you can calculate, or you can imagine, that if you are connected with Baba in thought, and you are ever ready, even sometimes Baba says, if your intellect is sharp and you're tuned in, you should technically be able to see an obstacle coming or a test coming before it gets here. You've seen Murlis like that. So this is also something we have to try in our rapid effort to be able to perceive things spiritually before we perceive them sensorially. That's a very different kind of perception. And of course for that we need very special kind of meditation, and a meditation not just sitting silently but really thinking about the difference between the speed of thought itself and the speed of receiving a sense impression. I see. And the way that we think about these is to go over in our mind particular incidents which are repeating tests. You probably all have somebody who's specially designed to make you fail. Is that right? And most BKs have someone in their lives who is just perfect for that. And I think that it's a setup that Baba has arranged. And there's this somebody who every time they'll get you. Every time. And you can make yourself as ready as you want. They'll get you every time anyway. So think about this person and what they do to make you fail, and then practice to see the situation with so much neutrality and really figure out the powers you need, whether it's accommodation, you have to accommodate them, you have to perceive what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, before they do it, and be very clear in your, Baba talks to us about our title of self-respect. And again, this word self-respect, you can look at it in another way. And I tend to use the word self-honor rather than self-respect. Because in English, self-respect doesn't really work with the idea of titles. A title is an honor. And if your self-honor is, well, I am a highly beloved child of God, and then hold yourself in that sense of self-honor, because if there is a little trace of doubt, that tiny trace of doubt allows the other person's ability to hit your ego to be successful, because there's a little hole where the bullet can go through because of doubt. Do you see what I'm saying? So we need a sort of body armor of the the title of self-respect in the sense of self-honor, and to assert who I am and what I am. where you really do not need anyone from the external world, BK world or non-BK world, to validate it for you. One of the very persistent human weaknesses is, am I okay? You ask somebody, and if they have any sense, they will say, no. And you say, oh, you're deflated. Because you give away your power by wanting validation from another person, you see. And this is why Baba keeps on saying, no, you honor yourself. So when you do a good action, you will experience the reward of that. But to ask another person to validate you is a mistake, and it will generally result in sorrow. And it'll result in sorrow so that you get the point that it is not a good thing to do that. You see? Because Baba has said, Baba has given you the titles, and you have to churn those titles to such an extent that you are stable in the in being the embodiment of that title, that you know that that is who you are and what you are, and it is between you and God. It's not anything to do with any other person or any validation, because Baba will say you're taking support from something that will fall beneath your feet. It is like walking on a roof made of grass. You're going to fall right through. So many times he will tell us this, but it's a very, very deep sanskar. And the reason it is a deep sanskar is because of our socialization. Any child, as they grow up, they are told, you are wonderful, marvelous, fantastic, or you're a horrible failure, regardless of what they are. But it's what we hear from other people as we grow up, and how we interpret what happens to us. Because a small person is egocentric, so whatever is happening in the world is because of me. If things are going wrong, it's my fault. If things are going well, it's also because of me. But in fact, that's not true. So Baba wants us to be independent of depending on this feedback that comes from people, from circumstances, and so on. So that I know who I am, and I assert that through the knowledge. I'm an 84-birth soul. I'm a former Suryavanshi deity because I have those qualities, I have that caliber, that is what I am. Now I'm in disguise as a human, and I have lost all my powers, virtues, and qualities and so on, and I'm in training to get those back again from God. I don't get them from people. I don't get them from position or from property or from being included, excluded, or anything that's coming from the sensorial world. And the sanskar of being dependent on the sensorial world will hit our mind, presumably at 0.3 of a second speed, and we have to be faster than that with our assertion of our title of who I am and what are my attainments. So to keep this in mind means that you're ever ready. And these type of thoughts, to keep the self nourished by these kinds of thoughts, means that we are always, with our weapons ready. the Shiv Shakti, the one who is in the combined form, anytime anything can happen. We have to be active, not just static, but active. And anytime anything happens, we respond to it quickly. We have 8 arms, we have all the powers, we have the crown of light, we have the orb of light, we have the shield of drama, we have everything necessary to handle anything that comes our way. And when we are competent in yoga, then we experience great joy. You know, there is this very strange statement that comes in the Murli, death for the prey and a kill for the hunter. You remember that? So some people don't like it. They say, oh, how can God say like that? But it's an ancient saying, and what it really is, Miru Amot Maluka Shikar, is death for the mouse and lunch for the cat. So literally it means that. Mirua is the mouse and Maluka is the cat. So it's really a Tom and Jerry situation. And for us to really enjoy and be happy is always to be able to operate this machinery of Gyan, Yoga, Dharana, and time in the face of the different circumstances. So we experience this joy, sometimes Baba calls it supersensuous joy, that our happiness is not because of our senses being satisfied by some taste or some touch or some eye candy or whatever it is, but rather our sense of attainment is through actually applying and being a real master in applying the knowledge, the yoga, and the powers that come through that, the virtues that come through the dharana, and really using the time to plant seeds of success. So we will have half an hour of meditation, and in the meditation, if you think about some situation where you repeatedly fail, with this firm determined thought that I will use Gyan, Yoga, Dharana, and time to figure out an angle of approach and a method of being where I will succeed in this test. And then Baba can take me to the next class and we can have some different tests. But to really be able to enjoy this Raj Yoga life and this confluence-aged life by having the right approach is, I suppose, our godly birthright. So we can think about that and really claim our right to that happiness. Om Shanti.